reveals the shocking, real stories behind the most horrific acts of familial crime, including prostitution.
Kirsty was two people. As soon as she'd finished her shift in the parlour, she became the girl next door.
Murder.
He systematically, one by one, killed them.
It was a tale of true horror.
And incest.
David, your daddy raped her.
I was 12 and I just found out I was carrying my brother's baby.
Vicky Jaggers was born in Tilbury, Essex, the youngest of 4 siblings. She remembers her childhood fondly.
It was just normal, 2 brothers and a sister, and I had Budgie, and, you know, my dad used to go work.
Vicky idolises her father, Len.
Always happy, always joking.
Len said, I want a little girl. And he got a little girl. That's actually why Vicky's called Victoria, because he was victorious.
Vicky forms a special bond with half-brother David, Avril's son from a previous relationship.
And he just used to cuddle her all the time, kiss her. He loved her to pieces. Any sweets he'd try and give her and things like that, you know. He was good with her. And he was a happy kid, always giggling and pulling faces.
The family spent happy times together on holidays across the southeast of England.
He's my brother. I trusted him more than I trusted anyone else.
Kept his eye on her, and at school he wouldn't let anybody bully her or anything.
Just that family thing where you all protect each other.
But protective older brother David starts showing a darker side to his personality.
He'd have fights at school because he'd lose his temper. He hurt one lad. David had hit him, and he'd got a black eye and a split lip and that.
As he grows older, David starts getting involved in criminal activity.
Started getting into trouble in his teenage years. Always fighting, like 15 sort of onwards.
Cars were his thing. He loved driving. Him and his mates actually stole a car that had been left in a car park, and we had the police there then because they'd recognised him, because everybody recognised him because he was so well-mannered.
At the age of 13, David asks his mum to buy him an air rifle so he can shoot at animals with his friends.
But he'd only had it about a fortnight, and we had a policeman at the door. Apparently him and his friend had gone down the alley and they were firing through the bushes. It was right near the railway line, and the fella that did the gates on the railway line, they nearly shot him.
Avril and Len realise something needs to be done about their delinquent son. They need a fresh start for the family. So they move away and become temporary pub managers, travelling from pub to pub every few weeks with 17-year-old David and 12-year-old Vicky in tow.
It was quite, I suppose, lively sort of atmosphere because, like, a lot of them were country pubs. Yeah, they were happy memories.
Although the pub lifestyle suits Avril and Len, it is beginning to have consequences for their children. Forensic psychologist Dr. Kerry Nixon works with Merseyside Police profiling serious violent offenders. She's been analysing Jaggers' behaviour.
We know from looking at Jaggers' past that he had difficulties in childhood. The family didn't settle in one place very long. So in terms of building up long-standing relationships, there doesn't seem to be any security in Jaggers' life. We see a lot of delinquent behaviour, which again, from the literature we know is a risk factor. He's got previous convictions for delinquent behaviour, antisocial traits. It's a risk factor for violent behaviour, but also for sex offences.
Vicky and David actually used to spend a lot of time downstairs with us.
I was always with older people, in the pubs and things like that as well. That's when all my schooling went out the window.
Psychologist Emma Kenny works with victims of family abuse in her clinics and recognises the impact this has.
Vicky would not have been able to form secure, supportive attachments with peers. She wouldn't have been able to have reliances on teachers and educators who could have helped her when tragedy struck. And in fact, what that would have done was it built a reliance on her brother's relationship with her.
Jaggers is becoming a ticking time bomb. Already a danger to the public, he now sets his sights on those closest to him. He was about to commit one of the sickest crimes imaginable.
Someone come into the room, and then I felt the bed. I felt someone get into the bed.
At the time, what did you think was happening?
I don't know, I was too scared.
She said, I'm never going back in that room.
That's her brother. Right. These are the people that you trust the most in your life. That trust had been destroyed.
The childhood of 12-year-old Vicky Jaggers is about to be destroyed by the one person she trusts the most, her older brother David. Vicky remembers the pub she was living in at the time.
I know it was an old coach inn, a little bit spooky because where it was old it used to creak and you had all the old wooden floorboards. I went to bed early, I think it was about 9 because everyone was still downstairs.
As Vicky sleeps upstairs, her brother David returns home.
I remember waking up, I think, when the door opened. Would have been about 10:30. Someone come into the room. Normally my mum and dad check on me, so I just went back to sleep.
But it's not Vicky's parents entering the room that night. It's her brother David.
And then I felt someone get into the bed. And then he did what he did. Left. And then I just laid there crying all night. I could tell it was him because certain smells, different aftershaves and all that sort of thing, I knew it was him. I was scared, cried most of the night.
Detective Sergeant Tracy Wheeler has worked in the Child Protection Unit at Essex Police for more than 10 years, dealing directly with family abuse cases.
He would have been 17 at the time. He had sex with her without a word. Didn't threaten her, didn't say anything to her, and consequently she didn't say anything back. And I can't imagine how frightened you have to be to not move a muscle or say anything or not cry out in any way.
He took away her childhood in that instant, and for that it's unforgivable.
But the question for Dr. Kerry Nixon is, how did David Jaggers go from stealing cars to committing incest on his 12-year-old sister?
From what we can see from how Jaggers raped Vicky, and from what we know from research in how young people sexually abuse, it would suggest that Jaggers has actually had some kind of early initiation of sex. Now, this could be through pornography, it could be from seeing sex in the household, but it certainly suggests the manner in which he raped Vicky, how he went about it, the raping her from behind, the not saying anything, the control. It all suggests that this is something that he has witnessed in his background.
The next morning, Vicky goes down to breakfast with her family.
I couldn't sleep at all that night, and the next morning I did actually have to go into the kitchen, and he was in there, and he was just normal. Everyone was just getting on with life as normal.
Whilst this has changed her life, to everybody else's eyes, she's just getting up and walking in the kitchen and having a breakfast. And that normality shifts you. It makes you think, hang on, Did this happen? Has this happened? Am I imagining this? What would I say if I needed to talk about it?
I was confused. I didn't know whether it was normal or anything. Being in the pubs, moving around, I didn't spend a lot of time with any friends, so I didn't know what their families were like. So, yeah, I just thought it was normal.
She loved her family. She loved her mum. She adored her father. The idea of speaking words that would transform that experience forever was just too overwhelming for her. And that's the tragedy with family abuse.
David, the protective older brother she trusted, has become her abuser.
He's got such an evil look sometimes. He's only got to look at you and you just see an evil streak. My whole view of him changed.
Almost like in non-verbal communication, a message is given. You won't talk. She's scared of him. He's not who she believed he was. If he's capable of raping her, what else is he capable of?
The fact that he managed to control Vicky, not to say anything, gave him an enhanced sense of confidence. He got away with it, and he then could go on and get away with further crimes.
David Jaggers isn't finished with his sister Vicky.
I went home that night after school. The pub opened as normal. Had dinner. I went to bed. Didn't really sleep much. And he come in again. And the same happened again that night. He got in my bed and he raped me for a second time.
On the third consecutive night, David rapes his sister Vicky again.
I just know after the third night I didn't like it and I made up an excuse because the pub was haunted. That the ghost was in my room and I wasn't sleeping in there anymore. And I used to sleep on my mum and dad's floor in their bedroom.
When she was talking, like saying there was a ghost there, she seemed to be absolutely terrified, so obviously we didn't force her to go back into the bedroom.
This is the last time David rapes Vicky, but her worst fears become reality.
I was 12 and I just found out I was carrying my brother's baby, and I was terrified. I was really worried about him finding out. Didn't know whether he was going to hurt me or anything like that, so yeah, I was scared, very scared.
When David finds out Vicky is pregnant, he moves out of the family home. But Avril still has no idea her beloved son is the father.
We asked her who it was, and she said a boy at school. And she said that it had happened in a field at the back of the school.
As Vicky is underage, the police get involved, and she makes up another story to hide her dark secret.
I actually told them that it was someone who I was seeing on a caravan park, whose baby it was, who was underage as well. So there was no further action.